What would make this especially useful for you today?
This will help me get a better understanding, like test taking strategies. I have always struggled with taking standardized testing, and law school is like the last step in the road for me to embark in my career. And I really would like to have the opportunity to like learn like different test taking strategies and make sure that I'm not letting my nerves of the LSAT get the best of me when I'm taking the LSAT or even like preparing for the LSAT.
Sure, absolutely. So when are you taking the LSAT and what are your LSAT and law school admissions goals?
My goal is to be enrolled by fall 2021. And I guess my LSAT goals is to take it in the summertime, August preferably. I
Awesome.
want,
So what's your goal score and what's your goal law school?
I will, well, I visit several law schools in the East Coast. I would love to attend Harvard. I know it's like a long shot, it's like a shot in the dark, but I would really like to attend Harvard. I love the campus. When I was sitting across the table with professors, I felt that I saw myself there. I could be there and I could be another student of the Alumni Association.
Sure. Great. All right. So it's really important to keep your goals in mind. If you want Harvard, if you want top 5 and top 14 law schools, it's going to require giving it your all over the next several months. You can take the LSAT in the summer, apply in the fall to start law school the following fall. But if you want to get over nerves and anxiety, you've got to really keep clearly in your mind what's your best case scenario and what's your worst case scenario looking 3 to 5 years from now. If you get that Harvard law acceptance, what's your life going to look like? And if you don't, what's your worst case scenario?
Right. I guess worst case scenario, I could always apply to the schools locally here in New York City, like the CUNY Law, Hofstra, Pace University Law School, and Cardozo Law School. Those are great law schools. I did extensive research in the programs they have, and it's right up my alley of what I want to practice in law, like intellectual property, personal injury, all of that sectors. I have experience in that, and that's where I'm looking to establish my placement in those industries. But ultimately, it's just like getting over that hump of the LSAT. After the LSAT and working on the essays for law school admissions, whatever it may be, it is what it is. And I just want to be able to say I put in 1,000% of myself into studying for 8 months prior to taking my first time taking the LSAT.
For sure. And 8 months is a long time. So you want to
Right.
make sure you have a clear day by day, step by step plan to show you exactly what to do and what not to do. Do you have something like that?
I don't really have something like that. I'm studying. I've been speaking with attorneys who have taken the LSAT and like they graduated like recently in the last 5 years. And they've always said to like start with the logic gains and the logic reason because that's like the big bulk of the exam. So that's what I'm focusing on. But like as far as studies concerned, it's like where do I start? Do I start with the fundamental basics of like how to tackle those questions, or should I just like jump right in and just see where do I stand and then study around that?
For sure. That's a great question. And some folks like the idea of taking a diagnostic to see where you are. But the bottom line is that it's probably not going to go well because you haven't learned the material yet. The LSAT
Right.
is like a foreign language. So I recommend instead building the foundation first or learning the basics of all different question types in what I call the LASER approach to LSAT studying. LASER is an acronym standing for learning, accuracy, sections, exams, and review.
Right.
So 5 steps, starting with the theory, then the application of that theory with individual questions by type, then 35-minute sections, then full-length exams, then detailed review. And I have schedules I can send you that include this framework. I also have a lot of other videos where I've talked about this in more depth, but I want to encourage you to keep in mind 8 months is a long time. You don't want to just take exam after exam. Slow down to speed up by building that foundation first.
Definitely, I totally agree. And I was watching some of your videos like for the past couple of weeks in regards to pointers of like what type of questions they be asking, what type of answers or in answer choices. And I found it really helpful because for a person who just like checked the diagnostics as cold, I got like a 135 for the very first time, like just looking at the LSAT. And I was kind of like a little, I wasn't like, I wasn't expecting the best, but I wasn't expecting to do that low. But at the same time, though, it's just like, it was my first time looking at the exam and just having to grasp and feel of what is this exam and like how mentally challenging it is to like pick up on the tricks in 35 minutes. And I hope within this 8 months, I will able to be able to like look at a question like, oh, I know what it's saying. I know what the format of this question is. This is for the logical games. Like, oh, I know what strategies to use to answer this question. Or what strategy to answer this question. And I think a lot of your videos has helped me to like go to not be afraid of the questions, but just like be more proactive in attacking the questions and just know that the questions it's not here to trick me. It's just very straightforward. It's just like what will be a tactic to solve it.
Exactly. So that recognition you mentioned is the first key step. Knowing which question type you're dealing with before you apply the appropriate strategy. And so forgetting about timing for now, just slowing down and analyzing the questions enough that you can recognize a new question type when you see it and relate it back to those you've done previously, apply the strategy, then the speed will come with time.
With that being said, like I noticing that my learning style is to like diagrams by doing and by trying to like memorize tricks. But like when I sit down with the book by myself, I'm overwhelmed because it's like all these words and all this like broken down information. It's like, wow, how am I gonna memorize 350 pages of information for this exam? So that's like where my I guess my anxiety for the LSAT is coming from. It's like, okay, I have the material now. How can I execute it with the studying?
I totally hear what you're saying. The textbooks can be overwhelming, and collectively, they're more than 1,000 pages. You can't possibly memorize everything in those books. And so I'd recommend don't really try to. Focus on theory, then application. And if the books are overwhelming, put them aside. Instead, use videos. Instead, use bite-sized articles and guides that boil it down like my resources do. I take the opposite approach from the textbooks. I try to think, how could I distill these concepts down to as few words as possible into a 500-word or maybe 1,000-word at most article? And I leave it concise. I leave it at that. I say, read this, then just go out and attack the questions. Use explanations if you need to, and then move on.
Right. And one of the questions I have is that I was looking at the videos and the past previous students of yours, or maybe current student of yours, have said that, oh yes, your videos, they have really helped with like consolidating into like a little 5 to 6 PowerPoint presentation because like honestly, like reading a book, I just get so like agitated. So I'm just like, you know what, let me just look at the videos. Let me just digest what you're saying and just hopefully it will sink in.
Exactly. That's the idea. Just keeping it as simple as possible. It doesn't take 1,000 pages to explain something like this. The LSAT's complex, but it's not that complex. And you're much better served by working through the questions and analyzing your mistakes than trying to memorize a ton of theory. This is not a test of memorization. It's a test of pattern recognition. And so if you can understand the questions on a deep enough level that when you see a new one, you're not really doing that question for the first time because you've already digested that method of reasoning in the past before test day. So on test day, you just say to yourself, oh, it's that method of reasoning, or it's that flaw, or it's that logic game type. I just do X, Y, Z, and it works. So boiling it down to a system, that's my goal for my students with my resources.
Oh, you just said a keyword I was just like trying to get out. Relating to the question I was trying to ask was talking about the LSAT after you have taken, say, like exam number 1, like talking about reasoning with someone, like how to like reason why did you choose B when the correct answer was D, and like just going through that thought process. Like with your classes, are there like sessions where it's like we could have those discussions like, well, why did you choose B? What was your thought process of choosing B? Because like really and truly, like, yes, you could go through the LSAT, or go review what you have done, but also it's like, do you understand why D is the answer rather to B?
Exactly. That's a big focus of my one-on-one coaching, where I'll say to my students, bring me the 3 to 5 hardest LSAT problems you've recently encountered, and we'll go through them in excruciating detail. And we will not leave the question aside until you thoroughly understand it and you're able to articulate your reasoning in your own words. So those tempting wrong answers, those discouraging right answers, we talk about all of that.
Right, because like when the answer key comes back and it says the answer is A because this and this, is like it's like test takers jargon, because it's just like, well, I'm sure 50 percentile of the kids that took this question has that same answer. So it's just like, well, how could, you know, yeah, just like going over like in simplistic terms, like, okay, is this answer because the following method applies?
Yeah, so the method applies, but we've got to relate the method in general to this particulars of that specific question. And so instead of saying antecedent and consequent, or even just evidence conclusion, what is the evidence here? Or what is that pronoun referring to? Or how could we have connected the pronoun to its subject more quickly?
Right, right. And going to like applying for law school, fast forward, take the LSAT, I may get the score that I would desire. What would be like the next subsequent step, like for within this course? Like, yes, it's LSAT preparation, but like, what about making your application like a strong candidate? You got like the perfect score, but like, also application is an essential part of applying for law school.
Certainly, yeah. So aside from the LSAT score and GPA, which are the most important factors, you still have all the other parts of the application: the personal statement, diversity statement, potentially optional essays and addenda, character and fitness statement, resume. And so you've got plenty of time. I wouldn't worry about those yet. I would knock out the LSAT first, but it's not too early to start thinking about and brainstorming a little bit of what those essay topics could look like and what you want to put in a personal statement and what you might want to cover in other parts of the application instead. And obviously, for Harvard, you want everything to be perfect. Even with the top LSAT score and GPA, you still have to really work hard on everything else, go through multiple drafts, have multiple readers, and really go through it with a fine-tooth comb.
Definitely. So I guess my 8 month plan to take the LSAT. Do you have something like what shows like 8 month plan, the 2 month plan, whatever, or it's just more so like coaching up until your target testing?
Oh, I have a variety of LSAT study plans for all different timelines, whether you're taking the LSAT in 1 month or 3 months or 6 months or beyond.
And what is like your overarching advice for whichever test taking timeline student is on? Because I'm like, yes, in general, because I'm about 2 years out from my undergraduate, and I've been taking some time off to like take a break and take a breather from academics, and B, take time to like figure out how am I going to get into law school, but also how am I going to strategize and get in the best course possible for the LSAT.
So there's the laser approach I recommended: learning, accuracy, sections, exams, and review, which is simply building the foundation first, learning the theory before doing questions by type, before introducing timing, before introducing endurance. So that's the general framework. Given that you're out of school a couple of years, it's obviously with more competing obligations as one gets older, you got to find a ways to balance the time. And so blocking off time in your schedule, getting support from friends and family to understand when you need to take half a day or a full day to do nothing but studying and simply block off that time to make it happen, I'd say is really the most important thing.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate all your advice. I do look forward into working with you in the future and getting the best possible outcome for my desires. And if Harvard is for me, it will be. If it's not, then I'll be more than happy to explore other options.
Great, Robin. Well, it was great to connect
Yes.
with you. Before we sign off, what would you say is
Mhm.
the biggest insight you got from our call today?
The biggest insight is your laser technique because it seems like when I was studying for LSAT, it was just more so like just practice questions, just practice, practice, practice. With your laser technique, it makes more sense. Learn the theories, learn what's the pragmatic approach to attacking certain questions, learn what the questions are, and it just makes more sense to like just take my time, and it assures me that me taking my time would. There's no easy road to get whatever I want out of this, but what you have said just like solidified my approach, and more. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna end this call more patient with myself because I know that okay, I'm 2 years out. I'm going to get this on my own pace, and if I have to go through these pinpoints one by one, step by step, then that's what I'll do. So I just like learning to be patient with myself. Else, that is the overarching theme I got out of this call.
Great. Well, I'm glad we were able to connect. Please keep in touch and let me know if I can help in any way as you move forward.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.